The living room was full of laughter when I walked in, but it died the moment they saw me. Balloons hung from the ceiling, a cake waited on the table, and my sister, Emily, stood in the center, glowing in a new suit. "Surprise!" Mom said, waving a glass of sparkling juice. "Emily got the job, can you believe it?" Everyone clapped. Everyone but me. I had just come from another rejection email, still dressed in the same blazer I'd worn to an interview that went nowhere. I smiled anyway. "That's great news," I said, my voice thinner than air. Emily hugged me quickly. "Thanks, Liv. Don't worry, your time will come." The words stung more than they should have. My time. As if I was waiting for permission to exist. Then Dad's voice cut through the noise. "You know, it's funny," he said with a chuckle. "Two daughters. One brings home a paycheck, the other brings home excuses." The room went quiet. My stomach dropped. I looked at him, waiting for a smirk, a sign it was just a bad joke. None came. Mom placed her hand on his arm but didn't stop him. "She's right, Olivia. You've been drifting since college. Maybe this will motivate you." Motivate me. The word burned. I walked to my room. My hand shook as I grabbed the door handle. I didn't want to cry in front of them. Not again. Inside, my life sat in neat piles. Sketches of a business idea, printed plans, folders of rejected proposals. My dream company, the one no one believed in. Outside, I heard laughter return. My heart cracked a little more. That's when Mom called out, "Olivia, can you come here a minute?" I stepped back into the living room. Everyone was smiling again, but something had changed. Two boxes sat by the door. My boxes. My throat tightened. "What's this?" Dad didn't meet my eyes. "It's time you found your own place. You're old enough." My chest went hollow. "You're kicking me out?" "You'll thank us one day. You need to learn responsibility. Emily's helping with the bills now. We can't carry you anymore." I searched their faces. Mom's eyes darted away. Emily looked frozen, unsure. "I'm trying," I said quietly. "You just can't see it yet." "Trying doesn't pay rent," Dad muttered. No one argued. No one stopped him. That was the moment it hit me. I wasn't their daughter anymore. I was their burden. I picked up one box. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from the rush of betrayal. Mom tried to sound gentle. "It's for your own good." The words rang hollow. Outside, the evening light hit my face like a slap. The air was sharp, cold. The street looked the same, but my world had tilted. I placed the boxes in the trunk of my old car, the same car they once called my college mistake. As I closed the trunk, I saw my reflection in the window, tired, angry, and suddenly very awake. That night, I parked behind a 24-hour diner, my car becoming home. I wrapped my jacket tighter and stared at the ceiling through the windshield. A single question echoed in my mind. How do you stop being someone's disappointment? Tears came, quiet and stubborn, but behind them, something else stirred. A spark, small but fierce. Days turned into weeks. I worked shifts at a cafe, slept in my car, saved what I could. Every rejection only sharpened me. I built, I learned, I grew. I stopped checking my phone for family messages. There were none. And slowly, I stopped needing them. Years later, when my company finally took off, I didn't send them a message. I didn't need applause. Success became my silence, my peace. Until one morning, my assistant walked in with a file. "New client request," she said. I opened the folder and froze. The name on the letterhead, Elara Corporation. Contact person, Emily Reynolds. Senior account manager. My sister. My pulse quickened. The same sister who'd watched me leave. For a long moment, I just stared at her name, the paper trembling in my hands. Then I looked up, a slow calm rising in my chest. The past was back, knocking on my door. This time I was the one holding the key, and I intended to open it. Carefully.
The morning after that email, I couldn't shake the name on the screen. Emily Reynolds, my sister. I hadn't spoken to her in nearly 6 years. I leaned back in my office chair, watching sunlight spill across the glass walls. My company, my world, had grown beyond anything I'd imagined. Yet here I was, staring at my past written in corporate font. I took a slow breath. Maybe this was just business. Maybe I could treat it that way. But memories don't care about professionalism. They flood in, uninvited. I saw the kitchen from years ago, the smell of coffee, Dad at the table reading the newspaper, Emily at the counter with her bright, confident smile. "Dad, I think Olivia's idea could actually work," Emily said one morning, flipping through my sketches. "Local suppliers connecting directly to big clients, it makes sense." Dad barely looked up. "She's wasting her degree. People like us don't start companies. We work for them." Mom had nodded. "Dreams don't fill the fridge, sweetie." I remembered how Emily's voice softened. "Maybe just let her try, Mom. She's good at this stuff." Back then, I believed her. She was my ally, the sister who sneaked snacks into my room when I stayed up building models, who whispered, "You'll prove them wrong." But a few months later, when Emily got that first interview at Alara, things changed. She stopped asking about my plans, stopped sharing hers. Then came that party, the day everything broke. I used to think my parents' betrayal was the hardest part, but now, sitting in my office, I realized something I hadn't before. It wasn't just them. It was her too. The first real memory that stung came back sharper than ever. A week before I was kicked out, I had shown my business plan to Emily. I'd poured my heart into it. The market research, projections, even branding ideas. She smiled the whole time. "This is amazing, Liv. You've got something here. Do you think I should show it to your boss? Maybe she knows someone who invests in startups." Emily hesitated. "Maybe. Let me take a look at it first. I'll print it out at work, make it look more polished." I thanked her, relieved. Finally, someone believed in me. That plan never came back. I thought she forgot. I thought she got busy. But when Alara Corporation's website launched a new campaign later that year, I noticed something eerie. A project description almost identical to my concept. Different words, same bones. I showed it to my parents once. "That's a coincidence," Dad said flatly. "Don't accuse your sister. She actually works hard." Emily didn't deny it. She just said, "It's business, Liv. Ideas overlap all the time." And I believed her, because I wanted to. Now reading her name on that partnership request, I finally understood what I'd lost. It wasn't just a home. It was trust. I'd lost my family to ambition. Theirs, not mine. Still, I wasn't angry anymore, not in the way I used to be. The years had changed me. The pain had hardened into something quieter, resolve. "Do you want me to schedule the meeting?" my assistant asked. I looked at her and smiled. "Yes, I'd like to meet Ms. Reynolds myself." When the day arrived, I stood in the mirror adjusting my blazer. No fear, no bitterness, just calm. The conference room was ready. Glass walls, sunlight, fresh coffee. Every detail polished. My assistant briefed me quickly. "She's leading the proposal. She doesn't know you'll be here in person." "Good," I said. "Let's keep it that way." I heard the door open. Footsteps. Then a familiar voice. "Good morning. I'm here to represent Alara Corporation. We're hoping to build something long-term." I turned. Emily froze. Her face paled, her lips parting in disbelief. Olivia? I smiled. Ms. Reynolds, it's been a while. For a heartbeat, the room was silent. Years of unspoken words hung between us. She recovered quickly, her professional mask slipping into place. I didn't realize you worked here. I don't, I said gently. I run it. Her eyes widened. You're the CEO? Yes. I sat down, folding my hands calmly. Let's discuss your proposal. She opened her folder with trembling fingers. Her voice wavered as she began her pitch. I listened, not interrupting. Every polished line, every slide, it was almost poetic how familiar it sounded. The system, the supply chain model, the outreach method. It was all too close to what I'd once drawn on my bedroom floor. When she finished, I gave a slow nod. Impressive work. Your model seems inspired. Emily blinked. Inspired? I met her eyes. By something you might remember. The silence returned, thicker this time. She didn't answer. For the first time, I saw not my sister, but a woman carrying her own regrets. I closed the folder. We'll review the proposal and get back to you. She stood, her composure cracking. Liv, Ms. Reynolds, I said softly, we're in business now. Personal matters can wait. As she left the room, I turned toward the window. The city shimmered below, full of stories like mine. And for the first time, I realized something new. Maybe the betrayal wasn't just about cruelty. Maybe it was about fear. She hadn't stolen my dream because she hated me. She'd done it because she didn't believe I could make it real. But I had. And that truth was louder than revenge. Still, as I watched her car pull away, one thought stayed with me. This wasn't the end of our story. It was the beginning of hers. The next morning, the city shimmered beneath the rising sun, glass towers catching light like fire. I stood by my office window, coffee in hand, watching people hurry below. The world looked ordinary again, but I wasn't. Something inside me had shifted. The meeting with Emily had reopened old wounds, yes, but had also given me something new, focus. For years, I had buried the past under success. Now it stood before me, asking to be understood, not avenged, but balanced. I wasn't going to destroy her. I was going to remind her who I'd become. Morning, Olivia, Claire said as she stepped into my office. My partner and oldest friend in the company. She'd seen me through every late night, every doubt. You didn't sleep, did you? I smiled faintly. Not much, but I'm thinking clearly. She raised an eyebrow. This about the Alara account? It's about making peace with something old, I said. We'll work with them, but on my terms. Claire nodded slowly. You sure you're ready for that? I've been ready for years, I replied. Later that day, I reviewed Alara's proposal again. Every page, every number, every timeline. The similarities to my first business plan were impossible to ignore. The same flow of suppliers, the same outreach framework, even a version of the logo I'd once sketched on a napkin. I wasn't angry anymore. I just needed the truth. At noon, I called my assistant. Set a follow-up with Miss Reynolds. This week, I want her comfortable enough to talk. The next meeting came sooner than I expected. Emily arrived wearing the same cautious smile she used to practice in front of our mirror before family dinners. Polite, careful, afraid to say too much. Thank you for seeing us again, she began, her tone overly professional. I gestured to the seat across from me. Of course, collaboration only works when both sides understand each other. Her hand trembled slightly as she opened her folder. We've adjusted the numbers. Your team's feedback was helpful. I leaned forward. Emily, can I ask you something off record? She looked up surprised. Sure. Do you remember a plan I showed you years ago about connecting small suppliers to major clients? You said you'd print it. Her expression flickered, a flash of guilt, gone as quickly as it appeared. "I remember," she said quietly. "Why?" "Because parts of your company's strategy mirror it, almost exactly." Emily inhaled sharply. "Liv, that's not fair. I didn't—" She stopped herself. "That was a long time ago." "It was," I said softly, "but long enough for truth to matter again." Silence filled the space between us. I could see her chest rise and fall, her fingers tightening around her pen. She finally whispered, "I didn't think you'd ever use it. You talked about it like a dream. I thought if someone could make it real, maybe it would still mean something." The words hit like a quiet storm. Not cruel, not cold, just sad. I nodded. "And did it mean something?" She looked away. "Not like I thought it would." I closed the folder gently. "Then maybe this partnership can fix that. No secrets, no taking, just work. Real work." Her eyes met mine, uncertain but grateful. "You'd really do that? After everything?" "Emily," I said, "I built this company to create chances for people who weren't believed in. I can't preach that and hold grudges." For the first time, her smile wasn't forced. It was small, tired, human. "You've changed," I replied. "So have you." When she left, I stood by the window again. The city was shifting into dusk, gold melting into gray. The reflection of my office lights framed me like a stranger I was still getting to know. Then Claire appeared at the door. "How'd it go?" I said. She remembered, and she's not the same person I thought she was. Claire tilted her head. "You forgive her?" "I don't know yet, but I understand her." That night after everyone left, I sat alone with the old boxes I'd kept in a corner, the ones I'd carried out of my parents' house. Inside, beneath papers and faded notebooks, I found something I hadn't seen in years, the original sketch of my first business plan. It was wrinkled, smudged, but still mine. In the corner of the page, in my handwriting, were the words I'd written the night I was kicked out. "They won't see it now, but they will one day." I smiled. The past wasn't haunting me anymore. It was teaching me. Just as I started putting the paper away, my phone buzzed. A message. From an unknown number. "We need to talk. It's about Mom and Dad." I froze. The sender's name appeared a second later. Emily. I stared at the screen, my heart beat steady but heavy. Whatever this was, it wasn't just business anymore. The family I thought I'd left behind was about to step back into my world. And this time, I would decide how the story ended. I met Emily at a small cafe near the river. Her choice. It was quiet, almost too quiet, with soft jazz playing in the background. The smell of roasted coffee filled the air, wrapping around us like a reminder of simpler times. She was already there when I arrived, sitting by the window, staring out at the water. When she turned and saw me, her expression shifted, nervous, then hopeful. "Thanks for coming," she said. I nodded and sat across from her. "You said it was about Mom and Dad." She hesitated. "It is, but before that, I need to say something." I waited. "I was wrong," she said finally. "About everything." Her voice cracked slightly. "When you left, they told me not to call you. Said it was best if you figured life out on your own. I listened. I shouldn't have." I folded my hands around my coffee cup. The heat steadied me. "You made your choice," I said quietly. "She did," she said, eyes glistening. "And I regret it every single day." We sat in silence for a while, the sound of clinking cups and distant chatter filling the gaps between us. Then she said, "Mom's not doing well. Her heart's weak, and Dad's been trying to reach you." That caught me off guard. "Reach me? He hasn't called once." Emily shook her head. "He doesn't know how to. He's proud, Liv. Too proud to admit he was wrong." A quiet anger flickered inside me. Not sharp, but deep, slow burning. Pride doesn't erase what he did. They threw me out like I was nothing. I know, she whispered. I watched it happen. I didn't stop it. And then I used your idea. I told myself it was harmless, that it wouldn't matter because you'd never finish it anyway. The words hung between us, fragile and heavy. I took a breath. Why? She looked up, meeting my eyes. Because I was scared. You were always braver than me. You talked about building something while I just wanted to belong somewhere. When I saw your plan, I saw safety. I saw a way to prove I was worth something. Her honesty hit harder than I expected. Emily, I said softly, you could have asked. We could have done it together. I know, her voice broke, but they compared us every day. You were the dreamer. I was the responsible one. I thought if I had something solid, something successful, they'd love me more. I stared at her, seeing not a rival, but a reflection of the same hunger I once felt, to be seen, to be enough. I sighed. You got what you wanted. Did it help? She shook her head, tears threatening to fall. No. I lost more than I gained. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was human. Two sisters, older now, trying to understand who they had been. Finally, I said, Mom and Dad, what do they want from me? They want to see you. Emily said, they've heard about your company. They know what you've done. They're proud, Liv. They just don't know how to face you. I looked down at my cup, swirling what was left. They should have thought about that years ago. She did, she said. They just didn't say it. I leaned back, watching the reflection of the river in the window pane. You want me to visit? She said, I want you to forgive. Not for them, for you. Something about the way she said it made the world slow down for a moment. Forgiveness. The word felt strange, heavy, impossible, yet freeing all at once. I don't know if I can, I admitted, but maybe I can listen. Emily reached across the table, her hand trembling slightly. That's enough. For the first time in years, I didn't pull away. We sat there, two sisters, bound by the same broken story, now rewriting it together. When we finally stood to leave, she hesitated. There's one more thing, she said. I turned. What is it? She handed me an envelope. You should see this before you decide anything. Inside was an old letter, the paper yellowed, the handwriting unmistakable. It was Dad's. Olivia, it read. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know, the day you left, I wasn't angry at you. I was angry at myself. You reminded me of everything I was too afraid to try. I thought pushing you out would make you stronger. I didn't realize I was breaking something I could never fix. The words blurred as I read. Emily's voice was soft. Mom's found it months ago. He never sent it. I folded the letter carefully, feeling a strange calm settle over me, the kind that comes when truth finally breathes. I'll go see them, I said quietly. Emily smiled through tears. They'll be happy to hear that. As I stepped outside, the evening light bathed the street in gold. The air felt lighter, the noise softer. For years, I'd carried anger like armor, but standing there, letter in hand, I realized something. The real power wasn't in proving them wrong. It was in showing them who I'd become, without hate, without blame. And somewhere deep inside, I knew this story wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about returning home, not to the place I left, but to the person I was meant to be. The drive back to my hometown felt unreal. Long stretches of highway cutting through fields I hadn't seen in years. The past seemed to move beside me, mile after mile, whispering old memories I thought I'd buried. When I reached the house, everything looked smaller. The paint was chipped, the porch creaked under my shoes, and the garden Mom once loved was fading. Emily waited by the door, hands tucked into her coat. They're inside, she said quietly. My heart thudded, steady but heavy. Let's go in.
The air smelled like the same jasmine air freshener from years ago, faint, nostalgic, almost cruel. Mom sat in her old armchair, wrapped in a blanket, eyes tired but bright when she saw me. Dad stood by the window, back turned, stiff like he didn't know how to start. "Olivia," Mom whispered, reaching out. "You came." I nodded. "Emily said you wanted to talk." Dad turned. His face had aged, the sharp lines now softened, the pride dimmed. He said, "I wasn't sure you'd come." "I wasn't sure either," I replied. Silence filled the room, thick, unsteady. Then Mom spoke, her voice trembling. "We made mistakes, Liv. We thought we were teaching you strength. We didn't realize we were teaching you pain." I swallowed hard. "You didn't just hurt me, you pushed me away." Dad's eyes lowered. "I know." He took a slow breath. "When Emily got that job, I saw her doing what I never could, fitting in, playing it safe. But you reminded me of every risk I never took. It scared me, so I told myself you needed tough love. Truth is, I didn't know how to handle you succeeding without me." It was strange hearing him sound human again, not the man who'd thrown me out, but a father unraveling the walls he'd built. "I thought you hated me," I said quietly. "I hated my reflection," he answered. Mom reached for my hand, her skin cool and frail. "We followed him, Liv. We didn't question it. You were right to dream big. We just couldn't see it then." Tears burned at the edge of my eyes. "And Emily?" My sister stepped forward. "I told them about the idea after you left," she said softly. "I wanted them to see you were brilliant, but they thought I'd made it up. When Alara used it, I didn't correct them. I liked the way they looked at me, proud for once. I told myself I'd tell you one day, but then it was too late." Her voice cracked. "I didn't steal it to hurt you. I did it because I wanted to be loved the way you were, even when you failed." The truth landed quietly, like snow on glass, soft but cold. I exhaled. "You both could have told me years ago." "We didn't know how," Dad said. "We thought time would fix it." Time hadn't fixed anything, but it had changed us. I looked around the room, the same furniture, the same walls, the same family, but everything different. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Mom whispered, "Can you forgive us?" The question hung in the air, fragile and heavy. Forgiveness. The word had followed me all the way here, patient and waiting. I looked at each of them, the sister who once betrayed me, the parents who cast me out. All of them looked smaller now, humbled by their own regrets. Part of me wanted to walk away, to leave them with their silence. Another part wanted to stay, to break the cycle that had shaped us all. "I don't know if I can forget what happened," I said finally. "It's letting go of the weight, and I've carried it long enough." Mom started to cry. Emily covered her face. Even Dad looked down, shoulders trembling. I stepped closer. "I don't know if I can forget what happened, but I don't want to hate you anymore. I'm tired." Dad nodded slowly. "That's more than we deserve." For a while, we just stood there, the four of us, surrounded by years of unspoken things. The house was quiet except for the sound of the wind moving through the old trees outside. Then Emily said softly, "You could sell the company, walk away rich and done, or you could let us make it right. Partner with us. Let's build something honest together." Her voice trembled on the last words. I looked at her, the same sister who once betrayed me, now asking to rebuild it with me. A strange calm settled over me. "Maybe," I said, "but if we do, it won't be about payback. It'll be about legacy." She nodded, tears glinting. "That's all I want." Outside, the light shifted, the golden edge of sunset spilling across the porch, painting everything in quiet color. For a long time, I just watched it,
listening to the creak of the house, the steady rhythm of my heart. This was what truth looked like: messy, human, unfinished. And standing there, I realized something simple. Revenge could have ended the story, but forgiveness might just change it. Still, as I stepped out onto the porch, I looked back once more. The family I had lost was sitting together again, fragile but real. I took a breath, the letter still folded in my pocket. Tomorrow, I would decide whether to build with them or finally walk away.
The next morning began with silence, not the cold kind that used to fill the house, but something gentler. I stood by the window, sunlight spilling across the floor, and watched the world waking up. Birds moved between branches, and the air smelled like rain that had fallen in the night. For the first time in years, I wasn't angry. The letter in my pocket had been there since I arrived, the one I wrote the day I left home. It was supposed to be my final word, a promise to never look back. But now, holding it again, the words felt different. They belonged to a version of me that no longer existed. Mom was in the kitchen making tea, humming softly to herself. Emily was helping her, the two of them moving quietly, their voices low and easy. Dad sat at the table, reading through old files. Mine, I realized. Contracts from Ilara Industries. He looked up when I walked in. "We were just talking," he said carefully. "Emily thinks we can restructure the startup. A joint family board. Clean, transparent." I smiled faintly. "You really think we can work together after everything?" Emily glanced at me. "I don't know, but I'd rather try than lose you again." Her voice was steady, not pleading, not defensive, just honest. I pulled out the letter and placed it on the table. This was the last thing I wrote before I left. I was ready to disappear back then. Mom reached for it. "Can we read it?" I nodded. Her hands shook a little as she unfolded it. The paper was worn, creased from years of being kept too close to my heart. She began to read aloud, my words, raw and young. "You won't see me again. I'll make something of myself, and when you hear my name, you'll regret ever letting me go." Her voice broke. She stopped reading halfway through. "That's enough," I said softly. "That was written in anger, but it kept me going. I don't regret it." Dad's voice was quiet. "And now?" I said, "Now I don't need anyone to regret anything. I just want peace." The room stayed still for a long time. Then Emily said, "What happens next?" I looked out the window again. "We move forward, but separately for a while." Her face fell. "You're leaving again?" "Yes," I said, "but not the same way as before. This time, it's by choice. I need to build my life on my own terms, not from anger, but from clarity." Dad nodded, his expression thoughtful. "That's fair." Mom rose and wrapped her arms around me. "We'll be here, no matter what." I held her tight. That's all I needed to hear. Later that day, I walked to the old train station. The same one I'd used years ago when I first left home with nothing but a backpack and a notebook. The wooden benches were still there, worn smooth from time. As I waited for the train, I saw a small boy with his father, the boy clutching a paper plane, the father showing him how to throw it just right. It sailed through the air, landing softly near my feet. The boy ran to pick it up and smiled shyly at me. "Sorry, miss." "It's okay," I said. "It flew beautifully." He grinned, proud, and ran back to his father. That paper plane, that small, fleeting thing, felt like a message. Sometimes what you throw into the world doesn't crash. It just lands somewhere new. I opened my notebook, the same one that once held the early sketches of my first business plan. On a blank page, I wrote a single line. "Success isn't revenge, it's peace that no one can take away." When the train pulled in, I climbed aboard and found a seat by the window.
The town drifted past as the wheels began to hum. Familiar streets, old shops, faces I might never see again. But this time, I wasn't running from anything. I was moving toward something. The skyline of the city appeared in the distance, where my next project waited, my next chapter already unfolding. I reached into my bag and took out the old letter one last time. Without reading it again, I tore it in half and let the pieces flutter out the open window. They drifted into the morning air, turning and glinting in the sunlight like tiny wings. Some stories don't need revenge or apologies to end, just the courage to let go. And as the train curved toward the horizon, I smiled, finally, weightless. The past had been loud, but peace, I realized, could be silent and still feel like victory. That was my ending. Or maybe my beginning.